being an entrepreneur is obviously not for everyone.
Everyone growing up was like, yo, you got to get into Boeing. Like, that's your set. And then you get set and you're like, this is it.
Our guest has turned his networking skills into a multi-million-dollar business. Previously, he was a 9-to-5er. Let me introduce you to Mitch Harb. Mitch, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I ended up in the corporate world, just hated it. I just always felt like there was more out there. I didn't want to do that, but I saw that this is what had to happen.
You kind of have to embrace the suck. You do the things that are hard.
You got to ask yourself, what am I willing to give up? We were just like, we're spending all this time basically planning business. Why don't we actually do it for real? I guess I knew from an early time that was worth something. Like, that experience, that's a skill that no one can take away from me and can make you way more money than $500.
You'd rather figure out, how to be better at something by failing forward. And all those failures help you move forward.
What advice would you give someone who maybe doesn't have the comfort level to be able to walk into something like that?
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Seattle Living and Wealth Building Podcast. Hope you've had a great summer. Really excited to introduce you to today's guest, but let me give you a few reasons why you're going to want to listen. First of all, learn how Mitch, our guest, has turned his networking skills into a multi-million-dollar business. Previously, he was a 9-to-5er, and to learn how he turned that side hustle into a full-time, awesome entrepreneurial gig, and learn the number one skill that can be accomplished in any industry for full success. So, let me introduce you to Mitch Harb. Mitch, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. So Mitch is born and raised in Washington, the co-founder of HIDEF Physical Therapy. Give us a little bit of background about where you started.
Yeah. So like Maynard mentioned, started as a 9-to-5er. I went to college, got a business degree, went to Central Washington. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. So everyone said, just go into business. I kind of knew I wanted to start my own business, but that didn't help me much with that. So I ended up in the corporate world, just hated it. I just didn't like what I was doing, didn't like the structure. I just always felt like there was more out there for me. And I didn't know where to start though. So a friend of mine along the journey said, what are you drawn to on a daily basis? Maybe you should go towards that. And fitness was always that thing that I did growing up, continued to do after college, and I was always pretty fit. So I said, okay, well, I'll go down that route. And I started to just learn about fitness, got my personal training certification, and eventually was doing a lot of side hustling, like Maynard mentioned. Eventually built that up enough to leave the 9-to-5 world, and from there, just continued to build, and now we're running a 4-clinic practice. So,
oh, that's incredible. And so you're 32 right now. You're working for Boeing, right?
Yeah.
9-to-5. Great job. People would say, congrats, you've got a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
At what age did you start thinking, it's not for me, and you started taking those next steps?
That was about when I was 25. Like you said, everyone growing up was like, yo, you got to get into Boeing. Like, that's your set. And then you get set and you're like, this is it. That was the worst feeling ever. Right. And I was just like, I try to make it work in my head. Like, okay, well, I see this guy at the company. Maybe I'll try and be him. And I was like, I don't even want to do that. And it's a terrible sign when the people above you don't want to be. Like, that doesn't. So what are you working towards?
Yeah,
right?
It probably felt like you were in a rat race almost. Like you're just doing the same thing every day, and you're looking up at the people above you, and you're like, that's not my passion.
I'm not inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so also, I started to read books, things like, and listen to podcasts like The Pursuit of Greatness with Lewis Howes and stuff like that. And you're just like, wow, I really believe and feel strongly about this stuff, but I'm sitting here doing things that don't seem like they matter. And so from there, it was like, okay, I know this isn't the path for me, but I'm sure a lot of people feel that too. But I also was like, well, what else am I going to do? And that was where I had to figure things out. And I started just trying things. I mentioned I had a friend who had a podcast, and I was like, well, can I help you for free? Because I also listened to Gary Vee, and that was his big thing, like, do work for free to gain skills, learn things. So I helped him out, and what I learned that I could add value was finding guests. So I learned that. I started getting guests and adding value in that way. And then that was how I learned about fitness too, was I then was like, well, now I know how to start a podcast, get guests. And so I started a podcast about fitness, got a lot of guests, learned like, what are the career choices here? Is this something that sounds good to me? Do I want to, do I look up to these people, right? Like, am I inspired by these people? And the answer was yes. So they kind of taught me like what was out there, what I could do. And then you kind of see what your next step is. And then, we talked about networking. I networked a lot through the podcast, through people in the local area. And that was how I got like my first gig in fitness. And that was how I met Maynard. And then, that was tough balancing like the 9-to-5 life with the side hustle, but it was necessary. So after that, you just start to see, all right, here's the next step. This is going to get me out of this gig, and kind of went from there.
And the great news is just 5 years later, magically, you own 4 PT clinics because you chose to do the side hustle.
Yeah.
Obviously, a little facetious comment there, but you know what? I think it's important to know that, this isn't for everybody. Yeah. Nothing against Boeing. Boeing's a great company, right? Mm-hmm. But being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. And I feel like in today's world, there's a lot of things on IG or podcasts or whatever that make it look very sexy, right? And easy to do, and a lot of buzzwords. Maybe peel back a little bit, what that side hustle looked like. Yeah. Not only what you were doing for work and how you're doing it in addition to your corporate job, but maybe what you had to cut back on for your lifestyle, right? In order to, again, turn that side hustle into an actual full-time gig.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that at one point I was like, I need to tell everyone about this. Everyone should go chase their dreams and all this stuff. Then you start to realize like, yeah, it's not for everyone, because it really is a trade-off. And that's another good point. So when I was doing the side hustle life, I was teaching classes in the morning, and it was 5:30, 6:30, 7:30. And then I'd go to work. And then after work, I would either teach more classes, or eventually I got some personal training clients. So I would then go train clients until like 8, maybe sometimes 9, and I would just do it again. And that was to build up that side income, save some money. On top of that, I was renting a room with 3 random roommates to save money, to also be close to the city that I was doing all this in, city that had opportunity. People I didn't know, a house that was not nice. It was cheaper. I didn't want to do that, like that's another big thing. Like, I didn't want to get up at 4:30 every day. I didn't want to work till 9 p.m., but I saw that this is what had to happen. Takes what it takes, right? Yeah. And, from there, then you build up enough to make enough money to leave, but now you really feel the pressure. And that was one of the toughest moments, was you're like so happy, like I finally did it, I finally left. And then it's like, whoa, 2 clients just quit on me. And this is really hard.
Yeah. The one thing I'm getting from what you're saying, Mitch, is, you kind of have to embrace the suck. I mean, that's something that we've said in our team, but you embrace the suck and you do the things that are hard. Yeah. It's not always easy. I mean, being an entrepreneur is obviously not for everyone. It's something that obviously you said that, it fit with what you were looking for at an early point in your college age. But I can just see a lot of people going to college thinking, oh wow, well these people have all this flexibility, they have all this money, whatever else. Well,
Yeah.
it took a long time to get to that point. There was a lot of suck involved there too. So let's get past the suck and enjoy life afterwards. But in the meantime, it's going to be hard to get it to where you have 4 clinics.
And that's what it is you got to ask yourself, what am I willing to give up? I think that's what I would say to anyone out there is like, don't think about all the cool stuff. Think about that. And then say, am I willing to trade that? Because we were talking about it today is I think a lot of people want certain things, but they also want to go out on the weekends and live in a nice house and do all these nice things. And it's like, well, you can't have both at the same time in certain phases. Like you got to be willing to give a lot up to get there in the future.
Yeah, and even when you get there in the future and things are going well, don't catch your chickens before they're hatched, right?
Sure.
Things can cut back. So let's fast forward just a little bit, right? So now you're running your own business, individual entrepreneur, physical trainer, right? For lots of people. And when did you shift from there into partnering with a buddy to open up a physical therapy / right, physical training clinic, right? Because we were clients with you at HIDEF Physical Therapy in addition to offering physical therapy services.
Yeah, so I was a trainer just running my own business, and actually I was the classic entrepreneur. I had the podcast. I was training clients. I was teaching classes. I then wanted to start a food business, and I was trying to do them all. And then I was trying to be an influencer and post online and stuff like that. So I was trying to do all these things, and very quickly you realize like you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I think a lot of people get confused when they see someone like Gary Vee, how he does do so many things, but he didn't start that way. He had one home run that allowed him to then free up his time to do other things. So I didn't realize that until I started doing all those things and nothing was really working well. Then my best friend from high school, Zach, he moved back into town from New Mexico. He went and became a physical therapist. He moved back into town and he was like, I want to help you with some stuff. And then we started kind of realizing like, okay, one thing is working better than all the others. Well, what if we just put all our attention into that? And that was training for me. And so then I did that, grew that, and then Zach kind of was inspired by that. He was working at a clinic that he didn't like, so kind of like the 9-to-5 life. He was inspired by that, and we were just like, we're spending all this time hanging out, talking business, basically planning business. Why don't we actually do it for real? And then we made the moves that we needed to make, and he quit that. We started to offer PT and personal training. And then you learn more about business and what problems you want. And we realized figuring out the personal training side was not a problem that we wanted. And it was almost another scale of you can do anything, but you can't do everything. When we started HIDEF, we're like, we'll do nutrition, we'll offer personal training, we'll do everything. And you realize, like I said, so we're like, let's just narrow our focus to PT, or physical therapy only. And then we'll probably be able to scale. And that's what we did. So we opened up the Bellevue clinic, and I stopped training because I needed time to help out with that. And that obviously worked, right? And we were able to scale a lot faster versus if I was still training or we were trying to do all these other things.
You guys were essentially the jack of all trades and the master of none at one point, right? With your vision of what you wanted. And then, obviously you became specialists, and that's why you guys are successful in what you're doing. So,
and it's a trap too, right? Like I still run into that issue every day. We're talking about all these other businesses we want to start. And it's like, well, hold on. Like, let's just focus on the main thing. Don't get distracted. And I think that's entrepreneurial trait, right? Like we were just talking about a golf tournament. I don't know why I'm even concentrating on that thing, but
there's a lot of reasons for that one.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this, leads back into, the networking, right?
Yeah.
Is that you were able to kind of build these businesses through networking, right?
Yeah.
Which, secret's out, right? I think this is a number one skill anybody can apply in any industry.
Yeah.
The power of networking and how that can help you learn, right? Grow a business like we do in real estate.
It's developing relationships.
It's developing relationships, and it goes so far.
Yeah. And that's why I think it can work in any industry. And I think that I could go into any industry and be successful because I know that really you just need to figure out how to add value to someone that can help you, and then give them something that they can help you with, basically, right? And that was really all I did. Like I said, I started, my friend has a podcast. Can I add some value to him? Then he helped me figure out what I wanted to do. And then he had some connections in the fitness industry, right? Connected me with that. I then had the podcasting skill now where I could meet more people. They connected me with more people in the industry, but I could have done that with any industry there is.
I love that mentality though of doing things for others without the expectation of anything in return.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I pride myself in a lot with real estate is, I'll help people with anything. I'm like, I don't care what it is. I just want to be of service to others. And, that's obviously something that came across in the fact that you're helping your buddy with this podcast. You're getting nothing from it, except maybe experience or whatever else. But at the end of the day, that's not any sort of large tangible thing that you're getting. So,
well,
awesome.
Yeah, well, I guess I knew from an early time that was worth something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people don't put that together. Like that experience, that's a skill that no one can take away from me and can make you way more money than a $500.
Yeah. With that, well, and that's exactly right. Networking. I don't really like the word networking, but the idea of building relationships and expanding your network is the biggest skill you can have. And Maynard, you said it earlier, but I really do agree with that. It's such a valuable skill. So for anyone who is, younger than all of us, obviously, that's something that I think we would all recommend as a big takeaway here is that, hey, work on your people skills, work on your communication skills, work on your comfort level in going out and speaking to someone that you don't know, being open to meeting new people,
especially when you're younger, you have so much time, like figure out people that you want to meet and be around and figure out how to add value to them with all the time that you have. I that's my only regret, that in college, I wasn't like finding my dream 100, trying to add value to them. Like you have so much time to play video games, all this stuff. Why don't you help their business? Because imagine in 5 years, like I would say that's how things have happened for me so fast, is that I just concentrated all my time into things like that.
Yeah, I think, and the cool thing too is that we can all look in hindsight at any age, right? 50, 40, 60, 30, 25, and you're like, oh man, only if I had done this earlier. Yeah, the thing is though, at whatever age you just started doing something.
Yeah.
Right, and things just, you can't predict the path. There's a term, fail forward, and it's an accurate term, right? You'd rather figure out, how to be better at something by failing forward. But sometimes you fail and you go backwards, you go sideways, and all those failures help you move forward eventually.
Well, Hormozy, I love this term he used, was the miserable maybe.
I haven't heard that one.
Some people are stuck for their life and maybe I should start this, maybe I should try that, versus just failing forward, right? Like, I'm just going to go try it. If I fail, whatever, you're going to get closer to the next thing because you tried something, and who knows who you're going to meet. That's how I look at it, is I'll try anything because I'll probably meet someone who's going to help me with the next thing if this doesn't work out.
Yeah, good point. Right. Yeah, and the next thing is we're going to be co-hosting a charity golf tournament.
And how did I get that?
Yeah.
I walked into 5-iron and I was like, who's the GM here? Talked to him. I was just talking to him about physical therapy. I was like, we work with golfers. Let's talk. How can we add value to you? Like, what can we do here? We talked for like 30 minutes. The guy was like, man, I really like you. I want you to be around here. I'll give you a free team in our league. And then we're doing this league.
Yeah.
And then it just came to mind like, well, why don't we do a tournament? Now you set that up. But again, you could do that in any industry, any business.
Yeah,
Why not?
Yeah, that's phenomenal because you were going in there with an intention because you were trying to grow the physical therapy business. In your physical therapy business, let's give a quick summary of HIDEF Physical Therapy, right? What makes them different and unique, what your business model is, who your ideal clients are. And the reason I want you to lay that out is because it'll make more sense why you went into 5-iron golf to potentially get new customers.
Yeah, well, I think the bigger picture of HIDEF and kind of what inspires me is it's making an impact and changing the game. Like I said, when I was working 9 to 5, I just didn't feel like what I was doing mattered or there was any reason for it. There was no mission, I guess. Whereas now I see HIDEF as changing physical therapy altogether, right? Like we're giving people an experience within physical therapy that they can't get anywhere else. We're inside of gyms. We've got equipment that no clinic has. We're bringing in PTs who have that expertise. We're giving them a work life that they actually appreciate. We're just offering more of a gym experience than a hospital experience.
I think that's a big part of it, though.
Yeah.
Right, the customer experience, right? And
because
also maybe realizing
2 days a week for like
that. Then again, not that many people want to go to the gym either, but
yeah. But I can wake up every day and chase that mission. Like I wake up fired up. I wake up at 5 every day and I didn't think that was real. When you hear people say stuff like that, like they wake up fired up, but like every day there's so much to tackle.
Well, you found a niche too in the market, right? I mean, as you said, you're the only people who are really doing something similar to what you're doing. There's lots of great, gyms and physical fitness avenues, but when you combine both of them, and the true focus is on therapy and helping build a healthier life through therapy, that's massive.
Yeah, and I think that everyone can maybe Boeing would have been it had I tried harder to attach to a mission there. Because again, I don't think it's meant for everyone to take on what I've taken on. So I would recommend wherever you're at, try to figure out how you can attach what you do to something meaningful, just a bigger picture. Maybe if I was like, wow, what I do on these airplanes, it takes these people and they help these people, I could have got around to it. But for me, I just needed to be more, I needed to have more access to the impact, I guess. But yeah, that's really what we're about. And as far as 5-iron goes, I also want to be able to think outside of the box. I think when you're in a corporate PT clinic, they're going to be like, okay, go talk to a doctor, market to this guy, do these cookie cutter things. I have the freedom. Why aren't we working with real estate groups? I should have a coupon in every closing box that you have, right? Someone might need physical therapy at some point. There's so many cool things we can do that's untapped. All that stuff fires me up.
Yeah, a lot of your clients too, I like some of the terms or phrases you've coined. So high definitely.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of your clients are more athletic, more gym oriented, right? They've maybe hurt themselves through some athletic training activity. And so that's why going into 5-iron golf, you made sense, right? There's a relatability that's your target market. In real estate, it's very similar as well. A lot of the times when you're starting a new business, you want to be the realtor for everything.
Yeah.
Every neighborhood, every area, every type of clientele. And, while that hustle may be important at the beginning, it also helps when you are more centrally focused either on a neighborhood in your area or even a type of property.
I think you got to be willing to work with anyone, but you don't tell people that you work with anyone, right? Like if someone comes to you, yeah, I'll help you. But when I talk about what we do, I got to have a focused story, because that's where people are going to think of you, right? No one's going to think of you for everything. Oh, he does everything. Well, when something comes up, I'll think of him. Like, no, I just forget about you. But when you say, I sell to this specific person, well, once that person comes up, they're going to think of you. They're going to send them to you. You're going to have a great experience. And then they're going to be like, well, they did well with that person. I'll just tell them about them every time. That's what we figured out in PT, because we were the same way. I would go meet with a doctor and they'd be like, do you do this? Like, yeah, we do it all. Please just send us people. Mm-hmm. And quickly you realize that doesn't work.
Yeah, one thing, I know that there's probably a lot of people on the listening on the podcast that are probably those people who love the idea of leaving their 9-to-5 job behind, right?
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily have the skills that come with what most people are who are extroverts.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably would describe yourself as an extrovert, I would think.
Yeah.
I'm probably somewhere in the middle, and I think you're probably somewhere in the middle too. But, I know a lot of introverts who have those entrepreneurial passions, but they don't necessarily have the extrovert skills to be able to walk into a 5-iron golf and necessarily say, hey, so what advice would you give someone who maybe isn't in that mind frame, or doesn't have the comfort level to be able to walk into something like that without concern of how someone's going to judge them or whatever it may be?
I guess there's a couple ways. Number one, you could hide behind the computer, and I made a lot of money on LinkedIn messaging people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way. Another way would be to, and I would just message people on LinkedIn and offer free value. So whatever you're trying to do, hey, can I do this for free? Hey, can I help you with this for free? And then go to work. You can also hire a virtual assistant on Fiverr, Upwork, to do that for like $10 an hour. So then you're not doing any of it. Or I would find a partner, find someone that is the sales side of things. Like that's like the Microsoft story, right? Steve Ballmer was the crazy sales guy, and he was able to get that out there where Bill Gates and those guys weren't really like that. So I think that, or also, I would consider myself an extrovert, but a lot of this stuff was learned and built on. I don't necessarily love going into a place where I don't know anyone. Like, I'm willing to do it because I want the end result more. So
you embrace the suck.
Exactly.
You do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the same with real estate.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to do a lot of the cold calls and stuff like that, but you understand what the end result's going to be, and it's either worth it or isn't to you.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you do something over time and you do it consistently, you're going to get long-term results.
Like it's funny that you say Maynard's a mix, because I would see him as like the most extroverted person, but I'm sure you just built the skill. Like, there's people I see at the gym where we train. I see him all the time. I never talk to him, but he talks to him every day. I'm like, how do you know this person? I don't know. I just walked in and said hello. I'm sure you just made it a point that everywhere I go, I'm going to introduce myself.
Yeah, I'm an introvertedly secret extrovert, maybe. I don't know, right? I think there's a lot of people that put a lot into what's an introvert or an extrovert, and it really doesn't matter. Yeah, but I love how there are different ways.
It's professionally extrovert, personally introvert.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. That's me.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, so speaking of real estate, right?
Yeah.
So you're 32, And what are your thoughts on buying real estate? Buying in Seattle, buying an investment or a home for you? What's important to you? And because I feel like your situation is something a lot of people will relate to. And, help us help you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's good. I want to get your guys' advice just because you hear so many things, and I think everyone's situation is going to be different too. For me, what I value is access, right? I'm sure I could go buy someplace an hour out of Seattle and maybe have a big house and all that, but I value access to all the things that I want. And I also was telling you, like, I don't really want a ton of space. I don't want to deal with like an old house. I want to be in the place that I want to be. So my thoughts are either like, I do understand the value of real estate though. Like I understand the investment side of things. So my thoughts are either, do I just rent and then buy something to also rent to someone else? Or do I go like the house hacking route like we talked, like maybe I get a condo with an extra room and I just rent that out? My goals though are to stay in the areas that I want to be in and do something smart that I can afford, I guess.
Sounds like what everyone wants.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean,
Meaning what?
well,
What
meaning
part
that
does everyone want?
well, everyone wants to be in the place that they want to be in. They want to have something that they can afford. I mean, that obviously is the goal, right? What you're reminding me though of is our podcast guest last month, Catherine, who she went and invested in herself and her business.
Yep.
Like she had the mentality that she was going to own multiple properties and kind of build wealth that way. But then she said, you know what, I need to get out of my 9 to 5. Well, in her case, definitely not 9 to 5, but her business that she was working for, start her own thing, become that entrepreneur, invest in her business, and then get back into real estate. And so, it sounds like that's what you have done as an investment vehicle right now is you're investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're intending to go into real estate at some point when you can get what you're looking for.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out is when is it smart to do that, right? Because I think that obviously, like I said, I could probably buy something now, but is that gonna be worth it? Am I missing out on anything? That's the stuff that goes through my head. Because I definitely still have some needs that I want.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And, there's a few keys right there that we're advising lots of people in your situation or in any situation where somebody's trying to figure out should they buy in Seattle. And a lot of it right now is, especially for first-time home buyers who are buying to live in the home, are you going to live in that home for at least a few years? Because it takes a few years for the investment in real estate to really start to pay off from a financial standpoint, because there are costs to sell the property. And right now, we had a big run of 15% appreciation, 10%, 20% appreciation. So we're predicting more normal, moderate appreciation. So a house could appreciate on average 5%, over 3 to 5 years. Right. So if you bought a $500,000 house, over 3 to 5 years, that's 525, right? Then that is 562. Then that's 600 after 3 years. So, you'll make some money if you sell it at that point, right? But you might not make a lot of money, and you might be paying more than if you were just renting, right? So the longer you hold on to something, then the better the real estate investment pays off. So you got to live it at least a few years.
Yeah.
Number 2 is definitely affordability. Don't stretch your budget. You never know when, especially with kind of our bumpy economy, things could shift. And, when you're in an entrepreneurial business too, there's a little bit more risk involved there.
For sure.
Right. So definitely go, I think, on the more affordable side, right? Go with less down payment, unless you just have hundreds of thousands of savings already and you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But the lower the down payment, that's no problem as long as you have a reasonable monthly payment, that's within your budget. That's not stretching you too thin.
Yeah.
So really, if you're going to be here a while, you can afford the place, and it's in the area that you want to live. There's really no reason not to buy right now.
Use it as a stepping stone as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very, very rarely do people buy a home that they're going to stay in for 25 years. It maybe used to be the case, but it's not so much anymore. I mean, I know for myself, I've bought various properties over the years, and my lifestyle has changed based on, where I live and, kids and, what your life's going to look like. So don't get stuck on, hey, this is where I want to be, so therefore I'm going to wait till I can afford that. Well, probably won't be able to afford it if you wait 5 years.
Right.
Because it's just simply going to get more and more expensive.
So you're saying like, just get something and then basically parlay that into the next thing.
Yeah.
And that next thing will then be where you actually want to be.
Well, and it maybe use real estate as an investment vehicle where you keep that first property as an investment property.
Yeah.
And then you buy an additional property. I mean, that's not for everyone, but
Right.
It's a great way to build wealth if you can keep properties for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I mean, the stigma is that, properties double in value every 8 to 10 years, roughly. Now, whether that's true or not is, somewhere in that range anyways. But if you hold a property for 20 years, I mean, it's going to be worth a lot more than it was when you purchased it. So if you can somehow find a way to hold that property and keep it as an investment, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you mentioned house hacking, buying let's say a duplex. Buying a duplex.
Townhome even.
Yeah, you can, and this is something that a lot of people don't know, but if you buy let's say a duplex and you live in the one unit, you can actually use up to 75% of the rental income from that other unit to help you qualify for the entire property. So, I mean, that's a massive, massive bonus for anyone who's looking to get into, let's say, a duplex, a triplex, or a quad. So
Interesting.
yeah.
What, so would you say basically a townhome and a condo, like, are those still as valuable as a regular house? Or, because I feel like I've heard that those don't actually appreciate as much.
That's a tricky one. I mean, I think everyone's gonna have a little bit of a different opinion, but there is value in land, right? But at the same time, proximity is really important. I mean, our condo values over the last few years have not increased at all, simply because of COVID and the fact that people wanted to move out of the area and whatnot. But townhouses have appreciated, while maybe not quite at the same level as single family homes, but they still have appreciated.
Okay.
And I think part of that is because people still want to live in the areas that they want to live in. Right. And so that's where a townhouse is a wonderful investment vehicle too, because you don't have to worry as much about maintenance.
Yeah.
It's a stress-free kind of style of living, right? And investment as a rental property. Whereas you get a single family house, it's a completely different story. So
that's what I want to avoid.
Yeah. Well, and that's where
I'm at.
townhouse make the most sense for you right now.
Yeah.
As you get older, let's say you have a family or whatever it may be, right? That's when you maybe would look to get into that house. But that's where a condo or a townhouse, to me, would make tons of sense.
And then you keep that townhouse, condo, and then just rent it.
If you can, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to sit there with, as Maynard mentioned earlier, you don't want to sit there with the intention of owning something for, a year or two.
Yeah.
You want to have it for 3 to 5 years minimum.
Yeah.
To be able to build some equity, have it actually make sense financially to do so. And then anything past that is kind of gravy.
What like kind of what I'm explaining, what have you seen out there now? Like, is there any areas you're like, oh yeah, that would make sense? Like right now I'm in the Wallingford area.
Yeah. I mean, the good news for you is, as, someone who wants to be close to the amenities, walkable as much, newer, there's so many options right around downtown Seattle, especially related to townhomes. We could go from Ballard to Wallingford to Fremont, all those neighborhoods. You're going to have a lot of different options, right? And it just depends on the size you want. We have clients buying townhomes, that are still newer for $600,000 right now, $650,000, right? 5% down or 3.5% down, you can get it for $30,000 to $50,000 down, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so totally affordable. You're already in a house with space, right? And you can get a roommate if you want. You know, you got to look at the rules. If you're interested in short-term rentals, you could potentially short-term Airbnb rent one of the rooms.
Yeah.
That's totally fine when you want to.
Explain to me also the whole interest rate dilemma here.
Yeah, great question.
What, just run me through that. Because, I mean, obviously, average person is going to be like, do not buy, like, look at those rates. Explain that.
Yeah, I think the big question is, that's why we talk about affordability. When we say affordability, can you afford the payment? Right? Because if we get interest rates today at 7.5%, that's much higher than 3%, right? But when it was 3%, prices were higher, and eventually it was going to go up, right? So right now there's a part of the environment where the interest rates are high for a lot of people. Will they go down? We don't know when.
Yeah.
Likely, right, as the economy improves. So that's why, as long as you can afford it, that's why people are still buying today, right? They can afford it. It's not, then don't worry about the interest rate that much, right? And then there are ways that, a seller can help pay down the interest rate for you temporarily. But for the most part, it's that, can you afford it? And once interest rates go down, then there's going to be a lot more people buying. The housing prices are going to be higher. So you could be stuck in kind of the same situation. It's that, I'm going to wait for the right time.
It never is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we don't know what those interest rates are going to look like, but I'm pretty confident in saying we're not going to see mortgage rates that are 3%, even 4%. I mean, probably in the 4s, maybe 5s, it's going to happen. But, what's going to happen when we see that? There's going to be a whole bunch of people that are 32 like you that are going to be flooding into the market because affordability is all of a sudden that much more approachable.
So is there way less competition right now?
Yes, it is for
because I remember
for certain properties, right? Condos and townhomes, certain properties like single family homes in the heart of, pick it, Ballard, Green Lake, Wallingford, Capitol Hill, those places. There's just so few of them, right? It's the supply and demand thing. So those you can still see bidding wars, and there's a lot of demand for
and
them.
The east side as well.
Yeah,
a lot of
the east side as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the answer, it depends.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to kind of really narrow down, really what's most important to you, where you want to live, what type of house you want to live, and what your budget is.
And what your situation is, right? Because, we're talking in generalities right now. It may not be directly applicable for you or our listeners, but that's where when you speak to your real estate professional, they're able to help understand what your situation is and what's going to make the most sense for you. So, for you, Maynard's your guy, and he can help guide you through the idea of, okay, well, does it make sense right now or does it not? Run the numbers, figure out what types of properties could be out there, what you can afford based on the fact that you have self-employment income versus a regular W-2, those types of things, right? So there's so many different things to consider, but that's why I always recommend speak to us. We're happy to help. So.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one thing that you guys can relate with physical therapy is that's what I'm always like, just come in the door. We'll give you a free screen. Like, just come in, because I know everyone's dealing with pain, and I'm sure everyone's dealing with real estate questions that they have, but they're like, I read this. I don't know about this. So guess what? It's free.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. I would take advantage of that.
Yeah. And if you're limping in, during your real estate consultation, we have somebody to refer you to as well. So, yeah, it's gonna be a win-win.
I love it. I love it.
Well, man, we've covered a lot of great topics on this show. Let's kind of wrap up and maybe go around and think of maybe some last takeaways you want to share with our audience.
Takeaways. Yeah, I mean, I would say number one is, if you're thinking about something, like we talked about, a side hustle, leaving your 9 to 5 or whatever, just take the next step. Who do you need to reach out to and talk to? Who is doing what you want to do? Can you get coffee with them? Can you add value to them to get that meeting? because that's what I did. Was I didn't just quit. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna quit my 9 to 5 and just figure it out from there. Like, no, I was like, who do I need to talk to? What did they tell me? What action step did I take from them? I'll take it. And I just started taking steps and steps. And then it's crazy that I'm at where I'm at, but it was a million little steps. So figure out that next step and just start there and just continue to stack.
There's a great book called Atomic Habits. And, that book is exactly what you're describing. Just every single day do that one little thing that much better or to improve yourself or improve what you're looking to do. And I think that's, exactly what you're describing right now. Just little incremental steps.
Yeah.
What'd you call the Alex Ramosi thing?
Miserable maybe.
Miserable maybe.
I was saying mayhem.
Miserable maybe. Yeah.
Miserable maybe.
Well, awesome to have you on. You're former 9 to 5er turned entrepreneur, trainer to many pro athletes and CEOs, now the founder of HIDEF Physical Therapy, also the most handsome bachelor in Seattle.
Love it. How do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out about HIDEF or,
my Instagram, HIDEF Mitch, or HIDEF PT is the business handle, HIDEFPT.com. Hit us up if you need an appointment. Happy to help.
Sweet.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
You too, Justin.
Thanks, Maynard.
I'll see you again. And thanks, Jay. I am Third Media, our podcast guy. See you guys next time.